Trouble with Mud is the 10th episode of the 3rd series based on the story Leaves from the Railway series book Gordon the Big Engine. This is going to get very repetitive, but this is another one of those episodes that I really loved as a kid. I just used to watch it endlessly on the VHS tape, and I still watch it pretty endlessly as an adult. One autumn morning, Thomas is being cleaned when Gordon arrives and is somehow covered in mud. Thomas tells Gordon to have a washdown, but Gordon does not care and leaves. A strong wind is blowing and Gordon's driver tells him to slow down, but that only makes Gordon more cross from it being dirty and late. In the goods yard at the next station, Gordon sees a sign saying all trains must wash down daily. James has just finished with his washdown and Gordon's driver tells him that it's his turn now. But Gordon angrily lets off steam and mud flies all over his driver, the workmen, and even James. Gordon's driver scolds him and now he has to wait until James gets another wash. But Gordon does not wait and leaves to pull the express. The Fat Controller is waiting for Gordon at the big station and is shocked to see the big engine looking very muddy. He tells Gordon that Henry will have to pull the train instead and orders the former to get cleaned at once. After Gordon finally receives a washdown, he pulls and shunts trucks for the rest of the day, much to his anger, while James gets ready to take the express. Earlier, a storm swept across Gordon's hill, blowing leaves onto the tracks. Though the storm is over, the hill is still slippery. Gordon warns James about the hills being slippery and says that he may need help, but James denies this and leaves. James picks up speed as he tries to pull the train over Gordon's hill by himself when he comes to it. But halfway up, despite his best efforts, his wheels begin slipping on the leaves and he rolls back down the hill. Gordon sees everything, and after teasing James for not listening to his advice, he decides to help him up the hill. Then, thanks to Gordon pushing from behind, James makes it to the top of the hill. That night, Thomas asks the Fat Controller if Gordon could pull coaches again. The Fat Controller says that Gordon may, as long as he understands the importance of having a good washdown. As the other engines settle to sleep, Gordon states that he is a famous machine whether he is clean or dirty. Unfortunately, there is no one else left awake or around to hear him. I feel I should point out the obvious, that this story actually came after Off the Rails in the Railway series timeline. But because they never adapted it for the first series, they eventually decided to adapt it for the 3rd series, so they had to come up with a new reason for Gordon pulling and shunting trucks for the rest of the day after his washdown. And the way they came up with it is actually a really good way. Somehow having mud blown over his smart blue paint and him not really caring to get a washdown and just wanted to get some work done.
"Hello, Gordon," called Thomas. "You look as if you've had a mud bath. Be a sensible engine and have a shower instead." Gordon snorted. "I haven't time to dawdle over my appearance like fussy tank engines do."
You could say that this might be out of character for Gordon, but I don't think it is. In the TV series before this episode, and even in the Railway series, we've never seen one bit of Gordon who's concerned about his appearance in the same way that James or Henry are. Henry was concerned about his appearance in the sad story of Henry about the rain, and James is always concerned about his appearance. So it's not completely unbelievable that Gordon wouldn't care too much about his appearance. But it would definitely be out of character if they made James the main character who gets muddy, since he would probably complain about being dirty and demand to be washed down immediately. So the way they put Gordon in the position in the episode actually makes sense.
"Mind my eye," he grumbled.
And Thomas asking the Fat Controller if Gordon could pull coaches again is taken from Paint Pots and Queens, which would later be adapted for the following series. And despite the changes to this adaptation, they really do capture the story really well. Especially the moment where James has to struggle up the hill with all those leaves on the tracks. Though it is quite funny that they called the episode The Trouble with Mud when it's mostly about leaves. Although if they did call it The Trouble with Leaves and Mud, that would have been a very long-winded title. And the first half of the episode is about being muddy, so I guess it makes sense. And the music that Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell composed is really impressive, as they always are. And I love the bit of music they made for when James struggles up the hill and then rolls back down because of the slippery leaves. Starting with a new version of James's theme when he's struggling up the hill, and then changing to a Dangerfield theme when he's slipping down the hill because of the leaves. just an awesome bit of transition in the two did with the music. And the moment of Gordon blowing mud onto James after he's just finished having his wash down is one of the funniest moments in the third series, and the TV series in general. Especially that hilarious noise Gordon makes in the early version of the episode.
Come on, Gordon, said his driver. You'll feel better too after a good hose down. Ah, said Gordon, and angrily let off steam.
And to this day I still find it hilarious the way Gordon handles the trucks and speaks to them when he's shunting in the yards. It's just such a great moment.
He felt his position deeply. That's for you, and you, and you.
And the way Michelangelos performed it in the early narrations is so goddamn hilarious. And it's one of those lines I used to imitate a lot when I was a kid. Mostly at times when I was reenacting the episode with my Ertel models and my Wood of Malway models. I just loved the way Gordon said those lines. And I do love how when Gordon gives James advice on going up the hill, James denies the offer, claiming that he doesn't need any help.
Be careful, warned Gordon. The hills are slippery. You may need help. I don't need help on hills, replied James huffily. Gordon thinks he knows everything.
It's just a great reminder that while Gordon and James are good friends, they don't always get along. Because their different personalities can sometimes get in the way of their friendship. But in the end, their friendship does shine through. It just takes them learning a lesson to remind them of that. And when you look at it, it's like the polar opposite of James and the Express, where Gordon starts to get really boastful, ends up making a fool of himself, and James has to help him out of a situation. But this time around, James is the one who gets into the situation that Gordon has to help him out of. It's the equivalent of Gordon saying, well, James helped me out in the past. I think I should return the favour. It just shows how strong their friendship is despite their differences. And that's part of what makes this one of my favourite episodes in the TV series. The Trouble with Mud has always been one of my favourite episodes of the third series as a kid, and it still is all these years later. It's a fun episode that I definitely recommend checking out if you haven't seen it for ages. It's got some funny moments, some serious moments, and the chemistry between Gordon and James is a real highlight for the episode as well as the series in general. It's an episode that's definitely worth re-watching.
That's for you, and you, and you.